G'day again, back for 14 part B. Weather records for a town suggest if a particular day is wet, the probability of the next day being dry is 5 on 6. If a particular day is dry, the probability of the next day being dry is a half. In a specific week, Thursday is dry, so there's Thursday, and they give you this nice tree diagram. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday. The 3 parts, let's do one at a time. Show the probability of Saturday being dry is 2/3. Well, this should be pretty straightforward. We want Saturday to be dry, so we want that one or that one, okay? So if Saturday is dry, we want this and this. So we want a half and we want 5 on 6. Or we want a half and a half to get to that dry. A half and a half. Well, what's and in probability? That's multiply. And what's or? Well, or is plus. So we want a half multiplied by 5 on 6, or we want a half multiplied by a half. And if you're in a rush, I'd probably just leave it there and go, yep, that's enough, 2/3, and move on to the next question. If you're not in a rush and you've got time, well, I think it'll be worthwhile going, okay, well that's 5 on 12 plus 1 on a quarter. That changes to 3 on 12. So then you've got 5 on 12 plus 3 on 12 equals 8 on 12 equals 2/3. And I think that's pretty messy, 8 on 12, isn't it? And I think that is showing the examiner better working. However, I think if you're in a rush and you just write that line equals 2/3 because you could punch that into your calculator, I think you'd be fine, but that way's better. And you're done. G'day again, back for part 2. What is the probability of both Saturday and Sunday being wet? Now this question's worth 2 marks and it's a little bit tricky. You would think that if you're only concentrating on Saturday and Sunday that you could forget about Friday. But in this question, you can't, because you're only considering that you know Thursday was dry. Therefore, these probabilities still count. And that's very, very tricky for a student in an exam, because you would only concentrate on Saturday and Sunday, start from here and go, okay, I want these probabilities, so just those two. But what you've actually got to do is consider it from here. So I think this is quite a tricky question. Okay, so Saturday and Sunday being wet. So we want Saturday wet and Sunday wet, or we want Saturday wet there and Sunday wet there. So instead of just starting from here, which is what I think a lot of students would do, they would start from here and forget about the chance of Friday. You have to start from here. Okay, so you're going to do a half times a sixth times a sixth. Or you're going to do the other half, which is a half times a 6. So once you've got it to there, it's quite straightforward. It's just thinking through that question is a little bit tricky. It's quite tricky, I think. So a half times 6 times a 6 is 1 on 72, plus, which is or, a half times a 6 is 1 on 24. You just punch that in your calculator and you get the correct answer anyway. So it equals 1 on 18. And you're done. G'day again, back for part 3. What is the probability of at least one of Saturday and Sunday being dry? Okay, anytime you see those words, at least, you need to think 1 minus the opposite of whatever they're asking. So we want 1 minus not this. So one of Saturday and Sunday being dry, well, if one of them is dry, we want 1 minus none of them dry. We want 1 minus the probability of none dry. Well, if none of them are dry, what's that? That's both wet, isn't it? And what did you figure out in part 2? You figured out, or we figured out, the probability that they're both wet. And what was that? That was 1 on 18. So this becomes quite a simple question. 1 minus 1 on 18 equals 17 on 18. And you're done.